What's up, world? There's only 2 more days left in this album cover challenge, and today the album that I'm going to talk about, it actually kind of makes me laugh that this one is on my list because when I was a kid, I used to beg my parents to put on anything else. I've heard this album hundreds of times since I was born. Today's album is Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. I remember one time when I was in 5th grade, someone in my class used the term old people music, and the teacher was like, well, what's old people music? And right away I said Fleetwood Mac. And she ended up actually laughing. I think she was surprised I knew who Fleetwood Mac were, but also I think she just knew I was right. Rumours is actually the 11th album that Fleetwood Mac put out, but it's only the second with the lineup that everybody came to know, which is Mick Fleetwood on the drums, John McVie on the bass, Christy McVie on piano, Lyndsey Buckingham on guitar, and of course, the Queen, Stevie Nicks, on those main vocals. This band went through so many different lineup changes that really different periods in the band's history are essentially like completely different bands. If you're not familiar with their earlier work, I would recommend the song Albatross. It's an instrumental, but it's really like a relaxing, sleepy time kind of song. It's really cool. Additionally, Stevie Nicks and Lyndsey Buckingham put out a record together before they joined Fleetwood Mac. That one is just called Buckingham Nicks. But Rumours is definitely Fleetwood Mac's biggest record. It's actually one of the best-selling records of all time. The only two consistent members in the band have been Mick Fleetwood on the drums and John McVie. Obviously, that's how the name came to be as well. Secondhand News is the song that opens up this album. It's one of my favorite first songs on an album. The rhythm of this song is really cool, and I actually think that they just recorded Lyndsey Buckingham scraping his guitar strings as a rhythm instrument. It sounds like a washboard. I have yet to hear that on any other song that I've ever listened to. The song builds up the entire time, and then at the end it brings in the electric guitar, and you get this really quick dose of what Lyndsey Buckingham can do on a guitar solo. In my opinion, he is one of the most underrated guitar players of all time. Never Going Back Again is the second song on the album. It's also my second favorite song on the album. It makes me think of like Johnny Appleseed deciding to leave home, and he's just like skipping along down the road. It also makes me think of like walking on train tracks with your friends as a kid. Kind of like that movie Stand By Me, just being on like some sort of imaginary adventure. In general, this album, Rumours, is how I imagine the 1970s sounded. Especially the song Don't Stop. I mean, how can you listen to that and not enjoy it? It's got a perfect piano foundation from Christy McVie, and then Lyndsey Buckingham just tears it up on guitar. That's the song that I really have always associated with Fleetwood Mac since I was a kid. Everybody knows that song and can always sing along to it. Dreams is the song that got me to respect this band, and I've got to say it solidified Stevie Nicks as absolutely my favorite female singer of all time. I remember I went back to New Jersey after my first year of college, and I brought all of my music gear with me. One of my good friends, Ravi, up there came over to my house to work on making a hip-hop beat with me. I was really only listening to rap music at the time. And he was like, man, I've got this awesome song we should sample. And sure enough, he pulled up Dreams. And my first reaction, I was like, what? This is that song that my parents would not stop playing when I was a kid. Stevie put a spell on me with that voice, and that song stayed on repeat for like a week. I just listened to it before I recorded this, and I'm still singing the hook in my head. I'd love to write a song like that. It's simple and beautiful, but honestly, I think that a big part of the reason that song works so well is honestly due to the interpersonal turmoil that was going on within Fleetwood Mac at the time. Stevie Nicks and Lyndsey Buckingham, the guitar player, they'd been dating off and on since even before they joined the band. John McVie and Christy McVie were also married at the time. But Mick Fleetwood was just kind of stuck in the middle of a whole bunch of nonsense. And he was just like, "Can we just play music? I didn't sign up for this." I obviously prefer Stevie Nicks' voice over Christy McVie's voice. But I've got to say, Christy is a killer songwriter. She actually wrote Don't Stop. She wrote You Make Loving Fun, Oh Daddy, and Songbird from this record. Even though Songbird is my least favorite song on the album. You Make Loving Fun is another song I always remember being one of my parents' favorites. My mom actually tried to teach me how to dance to this song when I was in 6th grade before my first school dance. But this was not the kind of music they were playing, and either way, I was in 6th grade. Like, we just stood up against the wall and listened to Usher. The clavinet on that song is super funky and catchy though, and Christy actually had a solo album before she joined up with Fleetwood Mac. That one she released under the name Christine Perfect. Christy, nobody's perfect. Actually, I take that back. Stevie Nicks is perfect. She's like 70 and I would still marry her. Go Your Own Way. It's another one of Fleetwood Mac's biggest songs, and it's probably my third favorite song on the album. Lyndsey Buckingham's guitar solo on the end of this song is badass as always, and I love the way that all three of the singers' voices just mesh together. My favorite song by Fleetwood Mac is The Chain. It has this instrumental that makes me think of like a Lone Ranger cowboy walking into a new town right at dusk, and all the townspeople are just like looking at him because they know trouble's coming their way. The lyrics are not about that whatsoever, but the way that the vocal harmonies again build this song up, it leads to this like showdown at the end of the song between the bass line and the guitar. It's magic. My favorite vocals on the entire album are at the end of this song when Stevie is singing The Chain will keep us together, and then Lyndsey Buckingham is doing the response vocal, and it's just running through the shadows. I love the song I Don't Want to Know. I think this song has the best lyrics on the entire album. Even though they had all that personal turmoil going on, this song is kind of like a reminder that they were at the top of the world, they were in love, and they were having fun, even though they're kind of ignoring the fact that they hated each other. Gold Dust Woman is a great closing track to the album. That style of song kind of became Stevie Nicks' signature sound, especially once she started going out on her own and putting out solo records. If you like Stevie Nicks, definitely listen to her record Belladonna that came out in 1981, and the title track from that album is one of the few songs that I've ever asked my mom, like, can you put that one on again? Additionally, the song Stop Dragging My Heart Around with Tom Petty is on that album, and it goes without saying, I'm a huge Tom Petty fan, and I think that's probably Stevie Nicks' best song outside of Fleetwood Mac. If you dig this album, also definitely listen to Tom Petty. Stevie Nicks thought of Tom as like a brother. They actually met at Sound City Studios, which is where this record, Rumours, was recorded, and Tom Petty also recorded in that studio. Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters actually bought that studio, and he put out a documentary that covers the entire history of Sound City. It's probably my favorite music documentary besides History of the Eagles. Believe it or not, this album also got me to give Dolly Parton a real listen. She's actually got some really great music if you give it a try. Stevie Nicks always said that she's just been trying to mimic Dolly Parton's voice her entire career. And one of my favorite songs from the 1990s was Ghetto Superstar by Maya. I didn't realize until I gave Dolly Parton a listen that the hook of that song is just a recycled Dolly Parton hook from the song Islands in the Stream with Kenny Rogers. I think the best way to discover new music is to look at who influenced your favorite artists. I can't tell you how many amazing artists and bands I've discovered just by reading the thank you notes in a CD booklet or unfolding a record and reading the inlay. I never would have even heard about most of those artists otherwise. Thank you guys for tuning in to day 9, and tomorrow we're going to wrap up the challenge. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching these videos, commenting, and essentially if you've watched this far, then I am presenting the challenge to you. I know that it can be a lot of work, so if you want, you can just post your top 10 list as a comment on here. That'd be really cool too. I'm literally always looking for new music to explore, and I want to hear from you guys. So I hope you have a big old smile on your face, and I will see you tomorrow.